the audience? What else could you be doing with a Saturday night, right? You're here at a science talk. Never mind the election, this is where the real party is happening. Woo! So I am Alison, and I am a physicist. But I'm not just any physicist, I'm a quantum physicist. And we all know that when you put the word quantum in front of something, it becomes way cooler. Marketing departments abuse this all the time. Boring things like batteries, dishwashing tablets. It's way cooler with the word quantum in front. I have found, though, that unfortunately, this doesn't always extend to me. When I tell people that I am a quantum physicist, normally they say, "Oh, I think I'm going to get a drink." So here's your opportunity, folks. Some of you have already got a drink. If you haven't, there's a bar. I won't be offended. Situation normal. You can wash your hair, walk your fish while you're there. Occasionally, some people say, "Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more." So then I tell them I am a scientist at UNSW and I am working on fabricating hardware for futuristic quantum systems. Which sounds fancy because it is. But really, what we're doing is we're trying to make a computer out of light. So you can say quantum physics is light work. That's all we're doing. It's just light work. Sometimes people say, "Oh, you must be smart." But I'm here to let you in on a secret. I'm not really that smart. What I am is a sucker for a challenge. Quantum physics, long distance running on these tiny little legs, public talking at a comedy festival. Sure, sign me up. What could possibly go wrong? I actually did a PhD in solar panel technology, but now I've swapped to quantum physics because doing a PhD and trying to save the whole climate crisis at the same time just wasn't enough of a risk or a challenge for me. So I know what you're thinking. How did you go from building solar panels to building quantum computers when you're clearly like 14 years old? Well, when you're as white as me, you have to be creative if you want to be the diversity high up. And look, honestly, when you're as white as me, solar panels are just risky business. So I'm a tiny person working on tiny things. But being small and young looking and inconspicuous does come in handy because it helps me to sneak in to undergraduate events where they serve free food. And who doesn't love a free lunch? So I bet you're here tonight because you want to know, what's the tea on quantum physics? Well, I'm here to tell you that quantum physics is three things. Firstly, it's interesting. It's interesting enough that the United Nations has named this year, 2025, as the International Year of Quantum Science and Technology. Quantum physics is also useful. You might be surprised by how many technologies actually use quantum physics in your day-to-day life. And the third thing that I want to tell you tonight is that quantum physics is yummy. But there's something else about quantum physics, which is that it's based on probabilities. In other words, we never really know anything for sure. So I need your help tonight in order to make sure that we're staying true to the spirit of quantum physics, all right? Every time I point the microphone at you, which looks like this, yay. Good, I need you to shout the word probably. All right, so are you gonna help me out? Probably. I'll take that. All right, so we need to make this slide more accurate. accurate to quantum physics? Quantum physics is, are you ready? Interesting.
Probably.
Useful.
Probably.
And yummy.
Probably.
You never really know until you try, right? So let's go through this. Quantum physics is interesting. Did you know that it started with a catastrophe? An ultraviolet catastrophe. But not this type of ultraviolet catastrophe, the mathematical type of ultraviolet catastrophe. Basically, when things are hot, they glow. But physicists couldn't figure out the maths for the super hot ultraviolet glowing things. Luckily, a guy called Planck decided to come along and he decided to break it down. And he decided you could break down light energy into individual packets called photons. And this is why we refer to the noise that lasers make as pew pew pew, not pew. So let's go on a little bit of a history lesson here. A guy called Einstein came along. He did a whole lot of very famous science in 1 year. Way to be an overachiever. One of the things he decided was light really does go pew pew pew. After this, a guy called Heisenberg got hay fever, so he went to an island to isolate himself. And while he was there, he did a whole bunch of maths. But his maths was a bit of a hot mess. So a guy called Born came along and simplified his hot mess into nice little rows and columns. And then a guy called Schrödinger also was sick. He went to a special respite hospital, and while he was there, he decided, you know what, everything's a wave. So I don't know what pills they were serving him with breakfast there, but apparently he wasn't high, and this was a really great idea. Okay, get ready for your moment. Wake up. You might have heard of Schrödinger before because of his cat. This is quite a famous cat because it is alive
Probably.
and dead,
Probably.
but we're not going to open that box tonight. Secondly, quantum physics is useful. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. So these are some really fancy computers, and people think they're going to be able to solve super hard and complex problems faster than uni students flocking to a free barbecue. People think they might help us to make new medicines to help end cancer. And they might help us to solve the whole climate crisis. And they might help us to optimize transport systems so that you can get your Uber Eats ice cream before it melts. Well,
Probably.
well done. So there's a number of ways you can make a quantum computer. Here are all the ways you can make a quantum computer. According to Microsoft, you can even make it out of things that don't even really properly exist yet, called Majoranas. But what would Microsoft know about computers? My favorite way to make a quantum computer is out of light. And not only can you make a quantum computer out of light, you can also make some other interesting quantum systems that are super hacker-proof, which means that you can securely transmit your information from A to B without getting hacked, such as all of your hacks for where to find the best free food on campus. My third point tonight, quantum physics is yummy. Now, how could this possibly be true? Well, the things that we make in the lab need to be cold to work, like really cold. So what do you do when you want to make something cold? Well, you put it in a fridge. We use these systems, quantum refrigerators, to take our experiments down to just a fraction of a degree above absolute zero. which for reference is even colder than Scotland. Some people say that these refrigerators look like fancy chandeliers. But because I am obsessed with food, I prefer to think of them as a nice, multi-layered wedding cake. We spend all day working with refrigerators like this. So how can you blame me for thinking about food all day long? If you spent all day with your refrigerator, you'd be thinking about it too. And what do we do with these refrigerators? Well, what we do is we study sources. But I'm not talking about tomato, barbecue, Worcestershire sauce, however you pronounce that. What I'm talking about are single photon sources, the ones that go pew 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 with light. And we make these sources out of a fancy element called erbium, shoved into a boring one called silicon, which both happen to be highly lickable according to the periodic table of lickability. I'm not so sure if I would try it, but you look like a brave audience. Would you try it? Some of you are very brave. So the main ingredient in our single photon sources are the photons, which are like little flavor particles that carry information. And what we're trying to do is find the flavors of photon that taste most interesting. So for example, lavender or mulled wine, and the ones that linger the longest, like dog poo. And if you're going to want to study these sources, you're going to need a way to taste them. So what we make is single photon detectors in order to detect or taste our photons. Because shoddy not tasting the dog poo ones myself. And these detectors are actually quite a lot like sandwiches. Not your democracy sausage from earlier today. Hopefully you had that by now. But they're actually fancy gourmet multi-layer sandwiches. And what we do is we pattern the different layers in order to make them functional. By doing this, we can detect our photons one by one, which is actually quite incredible. So I know what you're thinking. I look like an amazing, inspiring, glass ceiling smashing woman in science, but I'm here to tell you that all day long, all I'm doing is just making my boss sandwiches. And the worst part is I hate sandwiches, even if they're free. All right, so that is the tea on quantum physics, everybody. Time for your moment. Let's recap. It is interesting.
Probably.
Useful.
Probably.
Come on, have some hope. And yummy.
Probably.
So let's hope that one day quantum computers will help you shrink down to become as small as me so you can enjoy a free lunch too. Thank you.